The greatest threat to your life lies not in the enemy you see on the battlefield, but in the poison hidden behind a smile. Toxic people, manipulators, liars, and parasites feed on your kindness and drain your strength. However, most people make a fatal mistake by trying to confront them directly and losing everything. But Machiavelli would never act so foolishly. Today, I will share with you 7 cold laws on how to deal with toxic people. Not with emotions, not with pity, but with strategy. The first law is that a fool argues while a sage observes. Remember this? For toxic people thrive on confrontation, clashing voices, and the theater of drama. As soon as you challenge them, you enter their arena, where they are already trained to win. What is worse, they make you lose not through truth, but through exhaustion. They drain you piece by piece until your strength is exhausted, and their poison seeps into your soul. The art of survival lies not in facing them head-on, but in observing in silence. Silence is not weakness, it is observation. The hunter does not roar at the lion before the attack. He crouches, studying the beast, mastering its movements. Only then does he know where to strike. Similarly, you must allow a toxic person to speak, act, and reveal themselves. They cannot hold back, and in the process they showcase their flaws, insecurity, and thirst for validation. But you must resist the temptation to respond, to let them believe they control the situation. In reality, it is you who gathers strength in silence. Consider how many people have fallen not because they lacked strength, but because they wasted it. A toxic person thrives when you are emotional. They want you to get angry, defensive, and strive to prove your point. But when you remain calm and refuse to give in to provocations, you deprive them of their most powerful weapon. They await war, but find only a wall of silence, leaving them confused as they cannot control what does not respond. Yet observing in silence is not passivity, it's active calculation. Each time they speak, they note their weaknesses. Each time they act, observe their behavior patterns. Like a general studying the enemy camp, you will learn where their defenses are weak, where their ego blinds them, where their mask cracks. In time, they will uncover the map of their own destruction while believing you are too timid to fight. The greatest trick is that the moment they underestimate you, you become untouchable. But you must be disciplined, for silence requires patience, and patience is a form of strength. The longer you refuse to confront them on their terms, the more they begin to fall apart. They expect immediate resistance. They crave conflict. But when you deprive them of this battlefield, they begin to get nervous, lose caution, and make mistakes. It is then that you start to control the situation, not by force, but by your absence. You do not fight fire with fire, but allow it to burn itself out. Thus, you prepare for the second law. For having mastered the art of observation in silence, you are ready to accept the next truth. The importance of controlling the battlefield, but not on their terms, only on your own. Here, in Hut Aral Tidifire Eld, according to Lerberd number 20's record, once you master silence and learn to observe without showing yourself, you will be ready for the second law. Power is never neutral. It always depends on the foundation you stand on. Toxic people thrive in chaos, gossip, and conflicts. Their battlefield is noise, and they always try to drag you into it, knowing you will drown in the storm while they swim easily. However, a wise person, a strategist, never fights on the enemy's territory. He chooses the battlefield and tailors the rules of the game to his advantage. Recall how ancient commanders avoided battles in valleys against cavalry, or how Machiavelli advised rulers not to confront uprisings in streets where crowds gained strength. Instead, the ruler moves the battle to territory not controlled by the enemy. The same should be done with toxic people. They will try to provoke you at work, in public, in front of witnesses, to manipulate them. They will try to corner you in moments of anger, when your emotions betray your logic. Do not let them have that scene. You need to remove the spectators, deprive them of the tools they rely on, and make every interaction happen where you maintain control. Sometimes this implies changing the meeting place. If they shout, you speak quietly and privately. If they throw accusations, you respond only in writing, where each word is weighed and remains forever. If they provoke you in a moment of weakness, you postpone your response until you regain your strength and become invulnerable. By shifting the conditions, you render their tools useless. It is not enough to simply avoid their traps. You need to position them where they can't even set their traps. This law is about design, not strength. If a toxic person wants to fight in the mud, you refuse. You fight on stone, where they will slip. If they thirst for the game of rumors, you respond with irrefutable facts. If they seek to provoke an emotional storm, you react with cold reason. And when they try to portray you as the villain, you shift the struggle into silence and patience, where their mask begins to crack under its own weight. They may consider themselves skilled manipulators, but manipulation only works in an environment where it is not questioned. People create this environment, and you will stifle their influence. But it is important to show cunning. Do not announce your shift. Do not let them see how you change positions. Announcing your strategy means weakening it. Instead, redirect actions subtly so they never notice the ground beneath them has changed until it's too late. They may think they are luring you into battle, but in reality, you are leading them to a place where their claws are dulled and their poison is powerless. Once you master this territory, ensuring that every clash occurs where you are strongest, you will begin to wield a new weapon. Not words, not conflicts, but absence. Here the third law manifests, robbing them of attention. Labar Namambi, E.R. Treatise, Stavi Tamorafati. Now that you have learned not to engage in direct confrontation and mastered the art of shifting the battle to your terms, you are ready for the third law. Understand this clearly. Toxic people do not feed on truth or justice. They are energy parasites that live off your attention. Every breath you take, every argument, every flash of anger becomes fuel for their fire. They thrive when you react. Your reaction tells them that they have power over you, that they can disturb your peace, that they can control your emotions at will. And once they realize this, they will not stop. They will return again and again, feeding on you like a wolf hunting wounded prey, until nothing remains. But imagine that you give them nothing. No spark, no fuel, no reaction. You deprive them of their most desired thing, your recognition. What happens to the fire when no wood is added to it? It doesn't flare up, it dies out, it perishes. A toxic person can scream, insult, scheme, manipulate, but without your reaction, their words die in emptiness. You must become deaf to their noise, blind to their gestures, and immune to their provocations. For them, this is worse than war, as war at least gives them significance. Indifference tells them they are nothing. Remember how Machiavelli taught that a prince should not waste resources on minor enemies. By paying attention to them, he elevates them, and the same is true here. At the moment you argue with a toxic person, you bring them to your level, making them an equal opponent in a battle that should not exist. But when you refuse to feed them, when you don't even acknowledge the conflict, you turn them to dust, showing that they are beneath your notice, a shadow unable to reach the light. And this, more than any insult, is the greatest humiliation for them. Of course, depriving them of attention does not come without difficulties. Your pride will urge you to respond. Your emotions will thirst for revenge. Your tongue will burn with the desire to strike back. But strength does not lie in reaction. Strength lies in restraint. With each minute you do not respond, you accumulate power. Every silence of yours is a fortress they cannot breach. You do not flee from battle. You refuse to start it, and by doing so, you waste neither a drop of your energy nor your peace. You remain steadfast while they exhaust themselves with their own noise. But indifference alone is not enough. While you drain them, you must also protect yourself. A toxic person will seek cracks in your armor, aiming to find secrets to use against you and emotions to turn into weapons. That is why the next law is extremely important. It is not enough to be silent and cold. You must learn to wear masks, hiding your true thoughts, feelings, and intentions. Once you master indifference, the fourth law requires you to master the art of deception. Use masks instead of truth, for you disguise yourself not for others, but for your own safety. When silence exhausts them and indifference deprives them of resources, the fourth law reveals itself. Never share your truth. In unreliable hands, truth becomes a weapon, and once it leaves your lips, it no longer belongs to you, but to them. A toxic person will never respect your honesty. They will distort it and use it against you. If you reveal your weakness, they will strike at it. If you share your fears, they will only amplify them. If you open your heart, they will poison it. To deal with them, you must never be bare in your truth. Always wear a mask. The world is full of people who consider honesty a virtue. They believe that openly expressing their feelings will bring them respect, loyalty, or love. But Machiavelli taught us that people are not angels, but wolves, and wolves devour the unprotected lambs. If you are too candid, you become a delicacy for a toxic person. To survive, one must learn the art of concealment. Do this not only when necessary, but also when it benefits you. However, do not reveal anything within yourself. The mask is your shield and your weapon. Consider the mask not as a lie, but as a tool. It allows you to control what others see. You can show strength when you feel uncertain, calm in the storm of emotions, and indifference when contemplating your actions. A toxic person cannot attack what they cannot read. They seek emotions, cracks, signs of weakness on your face. But the mask shows only what you want, and in this choice lies your power. By revealing nothing, you deprive them of control. By showing only the image you want, you manipulate the field of perception. Some may call it deception, but is it deception to hide your gold from a thief? Isn't it unfair to keep your weapons hidden until the right moment? The mask is not betrayal, it's survival. You owe nothing to a toxic person because they will only poison it. Instead, you must protect yourself, and the mask is your armor. A wise man wears many faces, a pleasant ally, an indifferent listener, a polite conversationalist. But behind them lies a calculating mind, unreachable and unnoticed. Let the toxic person attack the mask. They will exhaust themselves, striking against an illusion, unaware that the true self remains untouched, waiting and observing. However, the mask serves not only for protection, but also for control. By hiding your true essence, you plunge a toxic person into a fog of uncertainty. He loses sight of your desires, intentions, and plans. This uncertainty breeds fear. Fear makes him reckless. Fear makes him desperate. In this desperate situation, he begins to open up more than ever before. And at the moment it opens, you approach the moment when the mask ceases to be merely a shield and becomes a trap. The next law teaches you how to strike without getting your hands dirty, allowing others and circumstances to destroy a toxic person, while your mask remains intact. This is the power of the fifth law, to act indirectly, making others fight for you. Lalabudla Manbi 50 Ika DCIWDL. Why only a mask protects you, but the strength lies not only in defense. The fifth law reveals the most elegant way to win without fighting, to destroy without striking, allowing others to crush the toxic person while remaining on the sidelines. Understand that direct confrontation is costly. It drains your time, energy, and peace of mind. Even if you win, you still lose a part of yourself. The art of power is to achieve triumph without raising a sword. That is why you must master the indirect strike. A toxic person cannot resist self-revelation. Their arrogance, lies, and endless thirst for recognition become weapons turned against themselves. You just need to create conditions where their own poison betrays them. Set up a situation where his words contradict each other. Let him promise more than he can fulfill. Allow him to show his cruelty so openly that others see his true face. When the moment comes, you will retreat, and his own nature will complete what has begun. But these are not the only circumstances you can use. People can become weapons themselves if you learn to control them. Why fight a toxic person directly when you can let others confront them? His arrogance will eventually offend someone more powerful than you. His manipulations will one day attract the attention of a more perceptive mind. Open yourself so that you never become a target, but always remain an observer. When others act against your enemy, do not intervene. Let them do it. You remain clean while your opponent ends up bloodied by another's hands. This is the brilliance of indirect strategy. Your hands stay innocent, and your reputation is untarnished. No one can accuse you of conspiracy since you haven't spoken a word. No one can accuse you of betrayal, as you did not strike. The toxic person is torn apart not by your attack, but by the weight of their own decay and the reactions of those they once deceived. And when the dust settles, who will remain unharmed? You. You did not fight, you merely endured, and endurance is often the most powerful blow of all. History remembers many such victories. Even Niccolo Machiavelli highly valued those who destroyed enemies not on the battlefield, but through cunning. Forcing others to fight for you is not cowardice, but an art. The strongest rulers allowed factions to destroy each other while remaining arbiters of peace. You should master this science. A toxic person should not be seen as an enemy to be defeated, but as a fool who will ultimately destroy themselves under the right circumstances. And when the world witnesses their downfall, you will be free from guilt, blood, and weakness. But the moment will come when waiting is no longer enough. There will be times when an indirect strike, however elegant, must give way to decisive action. Some poisons are too dangerous to leave. Some parasites cannot just be weakened. They must be completely removed. This is the sixth law, the coldest and sharpest of all. Strike suddenly. There is a point when patience stops being a strategy and becomes poison. Observing, controlling the battlefield, exhausting the enemy, wearing masks, delivering indirect strikes. These are tools of survival, but survival does not equal liberation. There are moments when a toxic person cannot simply be endured or exposed. They must be completely eliminated. This is the sixth law. When you strike, do it quickly and without warning. You see his weakness under the influence of poison. Delay is allowing the poison to spread further. A ruler who hesitates to eliminate a threat invites rebellion. A person who hesitates in severing ties invites endless suffering. There is only one way to end this, decisively and without negotiation. Many make the mistake of giving warnings, explanations, or long farewells. They prepare a toxic person for a rupture, giving him time to manipulate, plead, threaten, and poison the minds of others. But Machiavelli warned against this. A clean strike evokes fear, respect, and is irreversible. A delayed strike can lead to retaliation. Thus, when the time comes, you do not discuss. You do not justify yourself. You do not let them bargain for another chance. You sever ties like an executioner sweeping down with a sword, quickly, mercilessly, and without hesitation. This act is not cruel, though the weak may call it so. It is clear. A toxic person will never change, even if you try to reach an agreement with them. They won't suddenly reform just because you explained your pain. The more you talk, the more weapons you give them. The longer you hesitate, the deeper they penetrate your life. Breaking away is not about punishment. He is about preservation. He is about ending the cycle before it consumes you. Imagine a surgeon who has discovered an infection. Will he negotiate with the disease? Will he give it another week to see if the condition improves? No. He takes a knife and with one precise movement removes what threatens the patient's life. You must be as cold, as precise, and as unyielding. If you need to block, then block. If you need to leave, leave, and do not look back. If you need to end a relationship, disappear from it as if it never existed. Cruel, but necessary. Always. Hesitation is to remain enslaved, and when you break free, something amazing happens. A toxic person who once fed on your reactions, who survived thanks to your presence, now faces the horror of absence. He remains unarmed, without a battlefield, without an audience. He screams fiercely into the void, and the void does not respond. This is the power of a decisive break. This not only ends their influence on you, but also the illusion of control. And in this silence, in this cold vacuum you leave behind, you reach the ultimate law, the crown of all others. After all, power does not shout, argue, or justify itself. True victory over a toxic person lies not in words, but in silence itself. This is the seventh law, the always victorious silence. Let me call it the 7 letters that make up silence. The ultimate law, crowning all others, is the law of silence. Understand this well. The highest victories are not shouted. They are not demonstrated or announced. They live. A toxic person desires nothing more than your reaction. If you argue, you confirm that they matter. If you defend yourself, you acknowledge that their attack affected you. If you try to prove they are wrong, you confirm their role in your life. But when you disappear into silence, refusing to even acknowledge their existence, you deprive them of the very oxygen that sustains them. Silence is not emptiness. This is the loudest statement of indifference. This silence is not passive. It is an active force. It is a refusal to play their games, a refusal to meet them on their terms. It is a proclamation that they no longer exist in your world. You do not waste your words on them. because your life speaks louder than any words. Every success, every step up, every moment of joy is a dagger in the heart of their illusion of control. They once believed they could upset you, but your silence tells them they never mattered. What could be a more devastating defeat? For someone who lives for recognition, think about how rulers destroy rebels without arguing with them, without discussing their grievances, simply thriving without them. The rebel screams into the void while the state moves on, untouched. You need to become like a state, impervious to the noise of the weak. This is your fortress, and within it, you are invulnerable. While they rage, you rest. While they plot, you create. While they poison themselves with anger, you grow stronger. Over time, your life becomes a monument to what they could never destroy: your discipline, your strength, your peace. But silence is not only protection, it is also a strategy. When you do not explain yourself, you leave them in ignorance. They do not know if you are planning something, watching them, or are out of their reach. This uncertainty eats them from within. They create threats that exceed reality. In the darkness, they imagine enemies while you remain unnoticed, unreachable, and calm. Their fear grows not from what you do, but from what you refuse to reveal. In silence, you become greater than life, for they cannot measure, predict, or control you. Many people spend their lives trying to prove their worth to others. They argue endlessly, hoping to be noticed and understood, but Machiavelli knew the truth. Seeking approval is to humiliate oneself. True strength lies not in being understood, but in being indisputable. You do not need to convince a toxic person of your worth. Their acknowledgement is unnecessary for you. You allow your silence to convey to them that you exist beyond their reach, beyond their poison, beyond their narrow world of manipulations. And in this silence, you not only survive alongside them, you surpass them. In the end, silence is the purest form of victory. It leaves no traces, inflicts no wounds, and does not bind you to their memories. It is the art of leaving without giving them even the satisfaction of your anger. It is living in such a way that their shadow cannot follow you. And as soon as you realize this, you no longer fear the toxic person, for they have no power over you. You have deprived them of their sustenance, disguised yourself, changed the battlefield, struck indirectly, cut them off from sources of influence, and now you reign in silence. But silence itself is not the end. This is the beginning of something greater. For once you learn to win in silence, you will enter a world where strength is no longer a shield, but becomes creativity, where your life is defined not by toxic people, but by the empire you choose to build outside their influence. And so we return to the main truth. The world will never exhaust its supply of toxic people. They will always exist, scheming, manipulating, poisoning the air with their envy and deceit. But now you hold the cold laws that Machiavelli himself would approve. The strength to deal with them lies not in kindness, not in endless forgiveness, but in clarity, precision, and ruthless strategy. Do not waste your life trying to fix what was never broken in you. Do not exhaust yourself striving for peace with those who live in conflict. Instead, rise above them, armed with the laws you have learned. Limit their power, cut off their influence, use their nature against themselves. When the moment comes, step forward with determined strength, without hesitation or doubt. Remember that toxic people are not obstacles on your path to greatness. They are a test for it. They are the fire in which your steel is tempered. Mastering them means mastering yourself. To outsmart them means to rise above the petty games of the weak. And when you ascend above them, untouched and undefeated, you embody what Machiavelli taught many centuries ago. Power, once gained with wisdom and cold precision, can never be taken away.